Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3. Kill!
The shot around the world shook the earth with great resound. Lanterns lit, the riders fled to warn the farms and towns. The call to arms united them in grim determination. They vowed to see the eagle born and made their declaration. Honor bound and bred, they stood as one in their defiance. A continental army raised on common man's alliance. For liberty, the fire, in the hearts of men did forge. The will to break their shackles free and shake them into swords. Machine with a hunger deep, I'll scorch the earth with a mighty shriek and a million full metal jacket teeth. You better believe it when the boot comes down. The blood I spill on the battleground will soak the earth until the wicked drown. In the death I deal when the hate comes out. Born to the beating of the drums of war, shaped in the fire and valley floors, made hard in the waters of the beach I tore from the devil's claws in 44. Thunder cracked and the enemy dies when the barrel spits. The fire flies, it's on point, they're killing time, and I kill with a heart like Arctic ice.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a warrior, this is my song.
I am a warrior and this is my song. My boots are the beat of the rhythm I tread, shake the ground like a thunderhead. Rain down in a hail of fire and lead like a referee running through my head. Here we live
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cold War Radio. I forgot how long that intro was. We are live from studio number 1 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. Deep down in the broadcast bunker, please follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. The email is scrtv@live.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. If you'd like to be on the show tonight, you can catch the podcast all over the place. You can hear it streamed at the 405media.com in the morning, iHeartRadio On Demand, RD Elephant, the Cold War Radio app, free in your app store, YouTube for now, where there are captions. You can use the hashtag Cold War Radio on Twitter to get linked up with other listeners. And please go to SteelCityResistance.com, become a Cold War Radio patron. We really need some more of those, ladies and gentlemen. We've got, I don't know, what is it, 4 co-hosts and a communications director, and I whacked that stuff up for them. They each get a percentage of it. So there's about 28 patrons right now. Some of you very long-lasting patrons. Let me take my hat off to you and your lifetime to up-to-date support of the program. You guys are outstanding. You really are. But we got to get some more of you. 28 patrons out of 300 listeners to a recent podcast, 250 to 300. Sometimes the old ones are much higher over time. People like to listen to them, I guess. Out of date or whatever, but we got to get some more patrons in here to make this work a little better. So please consider that. You can become a Cold War Radio patron on SteelCityResistance.com if you can. If you can't, I understand. Check out the research room that has just loads of information about different hot button subjects. And, it's factual, too. It's not... This isn't Media Matters or anything like that. But if you would like, you can also check out the video page, which shows the videos of the associated audio clips that we play here on the program. If you'd like to write to the show, please write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15226. All right, we got a lot to do tonight. Let's go first to the other side of the county. Let's welcome Sal to the program from Allegheny County. Hello, Sal. Sign in, please.
Hey, this is Sal. How's everyone doing tonight? Hope everyone is well. How are you doing, Hutch?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I mean, great weekend, but great to be back. I'm going right back up again. I got a lot of work to do yet. Fall's coming. I got about 9,000 trees on my little piece of heaven. So we got to handle the leaves here coming up pretty soon. But yeah, I'm doing great. There's a lot of things in the news. I want to get to some local stuff first. I think A Radio is going to have a heart attack in the chat room. But he reminded me of something, a feature of the show. You remember when we first started doing Berg's Eye View, we used Skype a lot, exclusively used Skype, and I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea. It's like Twitter. I don't like being on something that's somebody else's. So we have our own dedicated platform now that we pay for phone calls and for the show. But he reminded me that we do have a call-in line, a voicemail line. And the reason I say this is because many more people listen to the show via podcast than listen to it live. So this is especially for you people that are listening to it other than live and can't really call in. Take this number down. It's 412-567-1460. 412-567-1460. And A Radio, this one's for you.
Hey Hutch, this is Adrian. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm actually reaching you. Perhaps you'd let me know tonight on air or something, or send me a message just so I know whether I've actually got through to you. All right. Thanks very much. I really appreciate that.
And
Bye-bye.
you're welcome. And there it is. So it's alive and well and it works. And I was trying to save it. I didn't want to say it in the chat room. I wanted to play it. So anyway, anybody that's listening to the podcast, just I think it cuts off after 2 minutes, so don't leave it too long. And tell us who you are and what's on your mind. Maybe if you want us to talk about something in the future or something that that you heard on the show and you'd like to comment about. I love interaction, and I'm going to. I basically put Skype in the drawer. It doesn't fire up when my computer fires up anymore, so I'm going to change that, and I'll start monitoring that on a regular basis. And like I said, if you call in, I'll play it if it's not ridiculous. So there we go, Sal. Does that bring back little memories, little Skype action?
It does. It does. It really does. And I'm glad that we are. Are we on cutting edge technology here? Perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, it's even called Uber.
But that's all right. We'll go with it.
Yeah, we'll go with it. All right. So some really good news for people like me. And actually, I mean, it's a shame when you and your son both have to go to the same theater of operations. I went to Iraq and he went to Afghanistan. But Afghanistan's almost 20 years old, Sal, and it's about damn time. Trump is expected to sign off on a Taliban deal to bring 5,000 U.S. troops home after nearly 18 years in Afghanistan. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is he's only bringing it down to Obama levels because we tell the truth here. And leaving 8,000 troops there, I mean, I don't know. I hope we can reevaluate that every year so we realize how useless it is. And I have knowledge of what's going on there, and what's going on there is the deep state, Sal. The State Department has built an empire over there. They're not going anywhere. They've got a palace over there.
The gravy train's working, right? The gravy train.
Damn right it is.
Who's getting paid? Who's getting paid?
It's absolutely right. They all make more when they're over there than they do when they're here. It's just like the Army Reserve and the Marine Corps and the Navy. When these reserve officers, especially the high-ranking ones, when they get a taste of that colonel, 1-star, 2-star salary and benefits, they don't want to let it go, man. They want to get deployed everywhere they possibly can. It's absolutely absurd, and it needs to at least for the sake of the structure of the reserve components, the reserve components need to be put back in reserve. They need to regroup, refit. They're walking around here. The commanders are walking around like they're regular Army officers, which they are, but it's over, man. It's 20 years, Sal. We're not winning. There's nothing going on there.
Yeah, the theater has been closed for a time, and it needs to be shut down. They're going to be fighting over there forever.
Absolutely.
But does that deserve our full amount of resources?
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. 100% agree.
Not at all. I mean, it's something, and I've said this on the program many times. A lot of people, it's like the gun control argument. A lot of people just don't understand the truth and the facts. And the facts are that after World War I, a bunch of white people drew those maps that didn't even live there. Those maps mean nothing to the people that live there. Afghanistan is not one unified country by any stretch. It's a group of tribal migrants and mountain people. I mean, it's centuries behind the times, and there's nothing we're going to do about them infighting. The people that we say are the government in Kabul are not the government out in the provinces. As a matter of fact, they're not even the same ethnicity in a lot of cases, and they're viewed as invaders when they come to these provinces. So I don't know. I'm glad we're moving in the right direction. I'm glad McMaster's is out on his ass. He's probably somewhere fueling the fire. But anyway, I hope this comes to fruition. I hope we get out of there all the way.
Yeah, it would be nice. I don't know what I don't know what the exact cost savings would be, but it has to be something, right?
Yeah,
it's got to be something.
And just imagine, especially the reserve components in the National Guard. Well, the reserve components include the National Guard. But, you have a 19, 20-year-old kid that's on the bottom of the economic ladder. He's working in the parts store or wherever he's working. And you tell your employer every 3 years, I got to go for a year. It's not good for the business. It's not good for the kid, the young man, young woman. And it's not necessary. We're not in a national emergency that the reserves were designed for. Now, I like the fact that they're integrated and involved, but the emergency's over. And these people do not want that gravy train to end. And I'm telling you, it's not the uniform side, it's the civilian side. But I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that and hope that works out. Unfortunately, some stories are starting to come out. And I find it kind of funny because the officer in this next clip sounds like he's an old-timer. And he said, yeah, well, when I got in at the beginning of the Obama administration, dude, I got in the Reagan administration. They used to sell beer in the barracks when I was coming up. But I want you to listen to this officer, this former officer, about the communist and Islamic. I mean, he's not going to call those out specifically, so I'll do it. Aspects of social justice warriors, getting into infiltrating our military. And I'll tell you a quick story before I play this clip. I realized it was damn near unsavable. When I was a CW4, I was at the end of my career. I had probably 3 years to go. And I'm in a sexual, I don't even know what it was, sexual harassment class or sexual something class. And these classes used to be, about women getting harassed in the military by male soldiers. This was an Army type of thing. And I'm watching this tape now. I'm in my 50s. And some of these people, and there's women in the room, and some of them are in their 20s. And I found this completely unacceptable for the U.S. government, for the United States Army to put this training on. It was a film that had a police officer, and he was telling his story about how he went into a dark alley and got jumped by 2 guys who took his gun. And then he very vividly and illustratively told what happened to him as he was orally and anally raped by these 2 men. And I'm looking around and I'm going, why am I watching this? What relevance does this have to me? It was sickening, Sal, and I almost didn't say it because that's how I left. I got up and walked out of the room. It's just what they've done to our military is unconscionable. Let's listen.
Threats. But some people see the military as a vessel of a very different purpose. Purpose, spreading woke values. James Hasson is a veteran, a former U.S. Army officer, author of a fantastic new book called Stand Down, How Social Justice Warriors Are Sabotaging America's Military. He joins us tonight. James, thanks very much.
It's great to be back, Tucker.
So we haven't done a lot of segments on this topic because, being honest, I find it so upsetting. The U.S. military, the one remaining noble institution in American life, and the idea that the left would have infiltrated it and would be using it for its own ends is so upsetting. You make the case that that's happening.
Yeah, it absolutely is, Tucker. The Army that I joined during Barack Obama's first term was nothing like the Army that I left at the end of his second. Social justice warriors imposed a progressive agenda on the military with no regard for the harm they cause to military readiness and national security. We're still paying the price, and the American people deserve to know. Look, the stakes are high. I think General Mattis said it best when he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that these social justice demands impose harms that will only be evident to our political class after military failure.
Right.
So my book, Stand Down, shows that we're still paying the price for Barack Obama's social engineering of the military. And it serves as a warning that if progressives retake the White House in 2020, we can expect the harm to military readiness and to national security to be huge.
And so traditionally, conservatives believe the left would go after the military by inadequately funding it, just not giving it enough money. You describe in this book something far more sinister and effective, where they basically are trying to rot it from the inside.
Well, I think what it stems from is just a fundamentally different view of what the military is about. And for example, Barack Obama's Undersecretary of Defense, Brad Carson, said that his goal was to make the Department of Defense the, quote, nation's most progressive employer. But the job of the military isn't to be more woke than Apple or Google. It's to defend us all by preparing to fight and win the nation's wars.
Yeah, by
and
force, by killing people. Right? That's the job of the military. That's its own
in a nutshell.
So there you have it. It's just it's destructive as can be. I mean, you also you heard right after the president was inaugurated, Obama. You heard the new head of NASA saying that NASA's mission was going to be Islamic outreach. I mean, these things are still there. The deep state's still there. You know, I think I'll let you comment on this, and then I want to go somewhere a little bit off the track. Go ahead.
You know, if it's still there, let's just try to hop forward. What's going to get it out, and how can we get it moving out? Is the second term going to do it?
Colonels.
What you know? Oh, okay. So how does that change? I mean, I'm trying to get to the root cause. I think you know where I'm headed here. I'm trying to get to the root cause. How do we get that to change? I mean, where does this come from? How do we get out of this? It seems like we're in a cycle here. And
well, it comes from people. If you remember the Secretary of Defense that was appointed, he served for most of the Obama administration, at least toward the end. And I'm loving this because I can't remember the jerk's name. But he was there when I was a sergeant. He's been at the top. It's the civilians and it's the political flag and general officers in the Pentagon that do this. You know, it's just like the people in D.C. are the people that work at the federal agencies in the Capitol. Washington, D.C. went 95% for Hillary Clinton. Need I say more? The Pentagon needs to be moved out of D.C. It needs to move somewhere else, to Billings, Montana or something. You know, it's just, it's polluted. And you've got these, and the reason I said colonels is because the generals, or most of them, are lost already. Now, there's some good ones. There are some good ones. But the colonels are the ones that are going to make something happen. And the E8s, the E7s, the E8s, and the E9s.
Well, maybe some, newer blood will get in there.
Yeah.
And things will maybe possibly change. That's what we can hope for. I would hope we could, maybe, not we, but I hope that whatever you want to call it, deep state will at least be, it's not normal. What's happening isn't normal. Okay. No. It's not normal.
Well, I mean, when you put women in the infantry and women in fighter jets and women in tanks and you allow transgenders in, none of that's normal. None of it. When you put a female in with a male fighting force, you've created a situation that's untenable. There's two kinds of love, and I can't remember the technical terms for them. But one is a man and woman loving each other, and another is men facing crazy things that bond with each other and love each other. When you can't have both at the same time. You can only have one or the other at one time in a group dynamic. You put two women in a squad of 10 guys, you wreck that squad. Because half the squad's going after the women, the other half's trying to protect. It just doesn't work. It's not natural. We have to work. That's why they keep guys apart and keep guys away from women. Because that's what that's how it works.
Okay, so just to go back in history a little bit, we're talking about Leon Panetta, Chuck Hagel, Ash Carter.
Ashton Carter was the guy I was talking about. He was in the DOD forever as a civilian. He wasn't a political appointee that they pulled out of their political book. He was already a deep stater, and he was there. And he had been there for years. It's people like him. Everybody's afraid to talk to him. He can fire you like that. It's just... it's an untenable situation right now. It is. And I'm glad this guy wrote this book, and I hope something happens because, as he said, the alternative is, the political people aren't going to notice until we lose a war. which is unfortunate. But on the bright side, no, let me go down this path first. I don't remember the guy's name, but the 16th, you want to talk about a deep state and a corrupt political party. The 16th Republican, they're doing it again. They're retiring again before the election. 16 Republicans are now retiring. You tell me that's not deep state. You tell me that those people are not traitors. Now, there's one or two of them that have Parkinson's or something, and I'm giving them a pass. But the rest of them, if you're able-bodied and you leave Trump's side right now, you were never a Republican. You never gave a damn about the country, and I'm going to do everything I can to spotlight you because you're a coward. And this enrages me, Sal. I thought we got rid of him the last time, but now there's two Republican congressmen, Perdue and Gaines, that have gone to China to try to undermine President Trump's deal. Republicans, this is unbelievable to me.
Well, there's a good and a bad that. Yeah, good. Well, let's look at the bad first. All right, it's bad because obviously that's not a good place. A good environment for Republicans. Congress is a absolute mess. However, maybe it's time that despite them lining their pockets and getting more out of the trough, the private sector likely when they retire, maybe this is an opportunity for some newer blood to get in there and maybe reinvigorate the party in Congress.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what I thought.
So let's take a look at the bright side of this. Yeah, I agree. It is a troubling trend right now, and I'm sure that you know who's licking her chops and giddy as can be to see how she can manipulate things over there.
Yeah, we'll see.
We gotta hopefully get some candidates and support them.
Some MAGA candidates. If we could replace every one of these traitors with a MAGA candidate, that would be fine. But are there enough out there? I mean, it takes a lot to run a political campaign. And I pray to God, I want to see Pat Toomey get primaried. I really do. I can't stand it. He's no better. I'm surprised he didn't go to China with him. And Justin Amash, too.
Maybe that's coming up next.
It might be. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to the phone. Sal, King George, hello. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on? Well, everybody wants to blame Obama for all this social engineering of the military, but actually it started, I joined back in 1990, and I remember distinctly when I was down at the Met Station in Camp Hill, they asked flat out, are you gay?
Are you homosexual? They didn't even use gay.
Or are you homosexual? And I'm like, hell no.
Right. And then they took a flashlight and checked.
And then you got this. Yeah. Now this is coming from the Korean or the Filipino doctor. He's like, now you drop pants, spread cheeks.
Yeah, exactly. Let me turn on this Duracell.
I was a homosexual. What the hell is going on here? But and then shortly after that, we got into the don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with homosexual people, whatever the hell you want to call them. But this the alphabet community, there are a bunch of radicals that are looking to change the country. That's how I see them. They're a militant bunch. They're a militant group looking to change the landscape of the country. That's all they are to me.
That's true. I mean, you look at they don't stand up for gay conservatives.
I was just told by one of the guys that kind of got me into this whole political mess that lived next door. I guess they had some sort of straight pride parade up in Boston, and I guess the Grand Marshal was Milo Yiannopoulos.
Well, the police chief.
You can't make this up.
No, they actually told the Antifa or the LGBTIEIOs to get out of the city. The police did, so that was interesting. I don't know that you have to have a parade like that is something, but.
And one of the things I just saw pop up in the chat, Thank you, Val. I hear you survived the hurricane. Hope you drank a couple of them on, hurricanes are fun, but my neighbor can't handle them because they screw up his blood sugar too bad. But yeah, I spent the whole weekend just kind of, you said to kind of unplug, so kind of did, except for Sunday. But
I'll tell you what, I think the whole audience was doing that because we had the lowest live numbers on Monday that I've had in a couple years, and I didn't I thought it was me, and I didn't take into consideration. Of course, it was Labor Day. Everybody was cooking out, and so.
Yeah, I went over to the neighbor's house. We were. Oh my God, we had more food over there than you could shake a stick at, and he was kind of upset that some of the people invited didn't show up. But we had 2 racks of ribs.
Nice.
I bought steaks that we didn't even cook. We had 4 pounds of shrimp.
Nice.
We cooked 4.5 pounds of bacon that was wrapped in something on Monday.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was a Muslim-free zone, I'm sure.
There you go.
But yeah, I didn't mean to miss the show, but.
No, that's all right.
But yeah, I love what you do, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. That this didn't start with Obama.
No, you're right.
Started way back during the Clinton era.
You're right. And
I've
said that. I've said that before. We can't be so short-sighted. Thanks for calling, Ken. I appreciate it.
All right.
Aloha,
right, thanks,
Snack Bar.
Ken.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go to Ralph in Missouri. Hello, Ralph. What's going on?
Yeah, I thought I'd chime in on the LGBTQ gays in the military thing, because a lot of that back in my day, they were talking about the Senate hearings on allowing women on combatant ships, and that was an interesting situation all to its own. And then this thing with Obama, Bill Clinton, when he was president, came out with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. The only difference between that and the way they done it when I came in was we didn't ask you if you were gay on the physical entrance exam and all that. And as far as other things went, if the local command you were attached to found out that you were engaged in homosexual activities and all that, they had the right to fire you up and bounce you out. Now, where did all this go awry is when Obama came in, he signed an executive order modifying Don't Ask, Don't Tell, allowing LGBTQs to have their gay parade and play dressed up and everything.
Isn't this ridiculous, man? Is it me or is this ridiculous?
Kicked out again because when Obama left office, Trump came in and said, screw that, and went back to the old ways, and we're not giving, free sex change operations and all this crap, even though there are some local commands who are humdinging around, letting some of these guys stay in if they came in under a whatever the hell exemption and all that. But you still, just like they did with the gay guys to begin with, under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, if you could demonstrate to the court or convening authority, Article 13 or whatever, and all that you could refrain from homosexual activities, they would kick you out. Now, did that mean they kicked out every homosexual they ever came across? No, because I personally had a third class that served with me in A Division. He was the yeoman for the chief engineer, or what we call Chang, and he was a very openly gay dude. And one gay guy could spot another one from a mile away.
Yeah,
the way he told it.
We had a guy in the infantry at Fort Benning that everybody knew he was gay. He was feminine, and people he was on
the phone.
He was one of the guys, but we made fun of him a little bit. Even the first sergeant did. And you look at the other side of the coin. And I'm not by any means saying that all women in the U.S. Army and U.S. Marine Corps are homosexual. I'm not saying that. But I can tell you this. I saw the United States Army female softball team. I'm just saying, man, that was a manly crew. That was a real manly crew. You've got a disproportionate percentage of homosexuals on the female side too. You know, it is what it is. I mean, that doesn't attract most women, that kind of life. You know, and I'm like ready to just bite my tongue. I don't even want to talk about this anymore. But
well, I'll tell you one quick fact about that. The Marine Corps has been catching hell over for the last couple of years when the former commandant, that's now just retired, he was getting Senate Oversight Committee hearings over this website that was started up that showed all these female service members, past, present, and all that, in compromising positions and so on.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I know. And so he's like, you know, Senator, we're doing what we can, da-da-da-da. Anybody that we find out about it, we fire them up, and so on and so forth. But this women in combat thing, to jump back to that, which is kind of related, there's only about 5%, according to the Marine Corps numbers, that have women that are interested in being in a frontline combat unit.
Right.
The rest of them want a job somewhere in the backfield. Secondly, and last but not least, in the Navy, a woman could reenlist, get a reenlistment bonus or selective reenlistment bonus, SRB, big chunk of cash, lump sum, and then go get knocked up.
Right. You know, and when you look at, yeah, you're right. I got to move on. Ralph, thank you for calling, brother. I appreciate it. And you see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. What happens when you have political pressure like this put on the military service? It's what happened with the United States Army Rangers. They falsify the results of the tests. Those women didn't pass the United States Army Ranger School. Give me a break. You know, 1 in 1,000 guys can't pass that thing. And you're going to tell me that all these people just know. And they got caught. And that's the way the military works. That's the way almost all corporate operations work, Sal. They fit it to meet their ends. There's no truth to it. There's not a woman out there could do as many push-ups as even me, probably.
That's true, and that's just the difference. That is just the God-given difference between men and women. We got the testosterone, they got the estrogen. It means something.
It does. There's no question about it. Okay, we got a new caller, but it's probably Marlene. I'm going to guess this is Marlene. Marlene, is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, all right, go ahead. From Eugene, Oregon.
Yep, and no, I'm not going to talk about LGBTQ, XYZ, any of that stuff. I don't want to go there either.
Thank you.
Actually,
I brought it up though, but good.
I know, that's okay. Actually, I was looking on the our friend Rod, the Black Patriot. He had an article that talked about Oregon. I know most of us remember the standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. That's northeastern Oregon.
Right.
And anyway, what's happened was in 2018, the judge, U.S. District Judge Gloria Navarro, ruled that the case against Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy would be dismissed with prejudice and ordered the rancher set free. And everything was all fine, except the order the rancher set free after federal prosecutors willfully withheld exculpatory evidence in the 2017 trial. And then after the mistrial, they set a date of January 8th to decide whether the case was going to be retired or dismissed with prejudice or not with prejudice, barring a retrial. So anyway, the prosecutors, they granted the court another trial against the Bundy, calling their missteps and violations inadvertent. Yeah, right. And then Ammon Bundy, I think that's the son, testified in the second trial. He was acquitted of everything. He has no criminal convictions. But what gets to be a little strange here is that he decides to go out and purchase a firearm. He fails the background check. And then there's a video and there's a video that Rod has of the actual what he's saying, and he says, I called a buddy, and he says, yeah, I got a guy who can get some lowers for an AR-15 or an AR-10. Then I tell him that I was just denied, and he's like, oh, that guy can't help you, you know. And so then he said, well, it forces me to go out in the street and find a gun myself. And he even said, you know, I'll do that. I'll find one. He says, I'll even build a gun if I have to.
Right.
And it's just, you know, and he says he's, you know, defend myself against street criminals and government criminals. And you should understand that disarming of the American population is wicked. No kidding.
It is.
And I thought that was moral because here's this guy who's been committed. He doesn't have a criminal background, no criminal record, and just because of the publicity, they tell him that he can't have a gun. I thought that was asinine. Long story short, it's terrible.
I don't know. I mean, that doesn't make sense, really.
It doesn't either. It doesn't make sense to me either.
I think there's more to that story.
There might very well be.
I mean, the people that are running the background checks are not law enforcement. They're gun shop owners. You know, they're businessmen. They're not,
right.
They're clerks that work at these places. I mean,
I
don't know. It's ridiculous.
But it is ridiculous.
Well, we gotta hold together, and we gotta not let our emotions get the best of us the next time it happens, because the root cause, I mean, Sal was talking about root cause analysis, and you know, you look at the second and third level effects of these things. It's the almost serial elimination of the father. That's what it is. Every single one of these idiots did not have a strong father smacking them upside the head, taking them and teaching them. Both of my kids shoot guns. They all own guns, first of all. Right. And they all know how to use them, and they know how to clean them, and they know how to act with them. And they know.
Can I bring mine over to be cleaned?
You know, I'll tell you what. There was a kid that was at a shoot with us. My daughter and I were at a pistol shoot, and this kid had a 40. It looked like a 1911, a 45, but it was a 20. It was a 22. Now the 45 upper receiver, the slide, is solid steel. It's very heavy, and so if it's not well oiled and cleaned, a little 22 round doesn't have enough ass to kick it back.
No, it won't slide. You're right.
And my daughter said, "Why don't you clean it?" And this kid said, "Well, my dad does that. I don't know how to." She laughed at this kid. She said, "You know, you shouldn't have a gun because it's not going to help you. It's going to fail on you.
It's a piece of machinery, just like anything else. You got to take care of it. You gotta do it, even if you don't like doing it. It's one of those things because it might save your life one day."
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you've seen my daughter, Sal, but she weighs about 100 pounds if she's wearing a winter coat and it's wet. And she carries a 45 with her. You know, she's not playing, but she's not pulling it out either. I mean, you know, it's just the way it is. All right, Marlene, thanks for calling. Some robust calls tonight.
Welcome.
All right, Marlene from Eugene, Oregon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me bring some a little bit of good news from the Pentagon. They announced a plan. They have shifted or are going to shift $3.6 billion to build the border wall because the United States Congress can't do it. The United States Congress doesn't give a darn about you or your family or your business or anything. It's a crying shame that this is not legislated, that we have a wall that protects us. And you have, I think, I don't know how many hundreds of miles we're up to now, but I think that this $3.6 billion takes us to 500 miles, if I'm not mistaken. And that's
we're not. The other thing, Hutch, and it's obvious we're not hearing much about it, right?
No, not at all. That's why we have Cold War Radio.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more reporting on the progress of the wall being built, and this should have this funding should help get it really moving forward.
Now, if you look at the Border Patrol website, I think it is, or you can go on YouTube, there is actually drone footage of what the president has built to date. And you hear him on Morning Joe and other places, or you hear it when you, because I know you're not watching those things, ladies and gentlemen, but we like to bring the clips so you see what's going on out there. The common denominator is we've built no wall. President Trump has built nothing. And that's just not true. You heard Tom Tancredo on this program twice tell you the progress that they're making, and they're not even a government entity. And maybe that's what it's going to take. But 3 cheers to the Pentagon. Maybe we're slowly coming out of the deep state era. I think it's going to take a little bit longer. And when we shift to the left and we go to San Francisco, the supervisors of San Francisco, and if you'd look at them, you wouldn't even think it was America. You'd think it was the United Nations, have voted unanimously to designate the Civil Rights Organization, one of the first civil rights organizations in the United States, the National Rifle Association, a domestic terrorist organization. So I guess that means if I go to San Francisco, I'm a terrorist now.
I have no clue what this does to really solve any of the issues that they have going on there. I don't even, I don't even want to talk about that place. The city is a cesspool.
They're destroying it. They're destroying one of the most beautiful areas of our country. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 20 years?
Yeah, and, of course, we're going to hear, that's being gentrified and the people with a lot of money are making, people move. No, you've got a serious crime problem. You've got a serious drug problem.
You've got a health problem. You've got typhus.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got some serious issues there that just isn't being addressed by local government, but yet they have time for this kind of bull crap.
You know what they did today? They outlawed. There used to be a common understanding. I don't even know if there had to be a law, but there probably was a law where in a disaster or a national emergency or something like that, or even a local emergency, if a law enforcement officer told you to help them, you were under obligation by law to help them. If it wasn't unreasonable. They have taken that away from the police in California. And I don't think it's statewide, but I don't remember the locality. It was probably San Francisco. But, they're doing everything to dismantle a civil society there. There are... Can you imagine there being a human waste problem where you live? Just think about that.
I don't want to imagine it.
Well, you lived it. You used to have to walk by Occupy Pittsburgh.
Yes, I did.
You told me some stink stories.
Oh yeah, I saw stuff. I saw rodents, messes. It was horrible. And then the aftermath, cleaning up the place, was just as bad.
Unbelievable, man. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't. Now, we've got a situation here, Sal, that you were looking into, and I saw it too. There's a local reporter in the Pittsburgh area that I know, John Delano. I actually went to a couple seminars with him. And he's pretty a fluffy guy, you know what I mean? He's not super serious, but on this issue, why don't you lead into the clip and tell the folks what's going on here in the city of Pittsburgh with the Trump derangement syndrome and whatnot.
Well, we have what we call another resistor. Oh my gosh, let's get the tears out. Let's cry because Trump's president. Oh, too bad. Oh, so some genius, probably in their basement.
Oh, they called him a blogger. They said a blogger.
Oh, okay. Well, let's call him a basement dweller.
Right.
Or I don't know what he is. All right. This individual, how about we call him that? That way it's across the board. Okay. Has started a local effort to boycott Pittsburgh businesses owned by Trump supporters. Can
It's
you
cra-
believe that?
It's
That
crazy.
is downright ridiculous.
The only good thing about this story, Sal, is the guy that I didn't know about before, the chairman of the Allegheny County Republican Party. As a matter of fact,
He's out by my area.
I'm sure he is, as is the Firearms Owners Against Crime president. Is right out your way too.
Yeah, he's nearby too. Usually I cut through that area sometimes to get out to the homestead here.
There you go.
But talking about this a little bit more, among on this list were 100 local businesses owned by Trump supporters, and guess what? Guess who else was banned? You want to take a guess, everyone? Oh my goodness, this is a big one here. Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
What a horrible person. I can't believe it.
But
the
you know
guy
what?
Probably
What Kenny
the guy
Chesney
actually-
does, he comes in here every year or every couple years and just highlights how incompetent Democrat rule is. They can't even calculate the amount of porta potties to set up. They can't even count how many dumpsters to set up.
And I'm going to guess that his appearance is a pretty good tax revenue generator.
Sure.
There's
And,
entertainment
they added
tax
them.
that needs to be paid. Oh yeah.
They added crazy communist taxes to these people. It's a wonder they still come here. But they do sell the place out. Every time. They sell the place out. I mean, it never fails.
Yeah, so I just think that this is downright crazy. We live, hopefully, in a civil society. We're allowed to vote where you want to. And, there's a lot of people who own businesses. Just because I'm sure there's a lot of places that you and I both go to that probably support causes that we aren't necessarily supportive of.
No, you can't avoid it.
No. But does that make them, should we boycott to the point where we should shut them down? These people, these small businesses are likely employing people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing about it too is it's only a couple skips away. If you donate $200 or more to a candidate, it's public record. I mean, it's out there. There's a list right now that you can go to.
Right.
That's next. That's next.
Because if you're not donating to a PAC or an organization that accumulates money and then gives donations in the name of the PAC, your name is individually identified.
That's right.
Did you have a clip to play on this?
Let's go.
Movements are popular, if not always successful. Now some in local social media say they have a new target: businesses owned by those who support President Trump. Political editor John Delano has the story.
In a Facebook post, a page identified only as Ban Kenny Chesney from Pittsburgh says there's a list of almost 100 local businesses owned by Trump supporters, which will soon be disclosed on a new website so that anti-Trump consumers can boycott them.
You are well within your rights to not hand your money to somebody who supports that ideology.
Who gives more than $200 to any federal candidate is available online at websites for both the Federal Election Commission and Open Secrets, linked at kdka.com. The Facebook post says the site will be a database of Trump supporter-owned businesses in the Pittsburgh area, as well as tips for how to get those specific businesses closed down. Local blogger Brian Broom supports the boycott, but Councilman Sam DeMarco, chair of the Allegheny County Republican Party, calls the effort fascist.
Look at what they're trying to do. People who they just don't agree with, they want to take and punish. Yeah, I absolutely believe that this is fascist behavior, and I reject it.
DeMarco compares it to the Nazis drawing Stars of David on Jewish-owned businesses to urge Germans to boycott.
I absolutely see a problem. They're trying to place a mark on a business to boycott it and to not frequent it, not to utilize it, and try to make it unacceptable.
I think that he should probably look up the word fascist. A boycott is not a fascist activity. That's misleading. I think that people who don't want to support a business because they don't agree with that business's ideology are perfectly well within their rights.
At this early stage, it's hard to say what the economic impact will be of this boycott effort. But clearly in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election, It's a sure sign of how divisive American politics has become. Reporting from Oakland, I'm John Delano, KDKA News.
All right, so let's start with the definition of fascism because the blogger's confused. A system of government marked by centralization of authority under a dictator. Just think if Hillary Clinton was president. If Hillary Clinton was president, this blogger would probably be the Secretary of Commerce. A capitalist economy, stores, businesses, a capitalist economy subject to stringent government controls and violent suppression of the opposition. Now, again, and I'm sure that this blogger has the full and complete support of the office of the mayor of Pittsburgh and the office of the Allegheny County. You all right there? Sound like your mic fell or something.
No, hold on. I'm just I'm experimenting here. I got 3 monitors in front of me, and I'm standing. So
and a hot mic.
And a hot mic. So I got a lot going on. So and I set it down. So I think that was a little bit of a problem there. Not the best cord that I have going on, but you know what? Their silence speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It does.
Their silence speaks volumes. So let's just use that as their silence speaks volumes. That's all I have to say. If they, I thought, they wanted I believe that the city wants a vibrant city. Well,
sometimes you got to wonder.
This isn't going to help it. This isn't going to be the one thing that's going to want to attract business here. That's for sure. Who wants to bring dollars into a hostile environment?
You know what I think of when I think of that? One of the first things I think of is those damn bike lanes, Sal. You go down on Penn Avenue and some of the other bigger streets that have these physically barricaded off bike lanes, and then you look at the businesses that have been on that street for years and decades, and now nobody can access their business from a car.
Because there used to be parking on both sides. Yeah, you could drop by there, quickly go in, get out, do your business. Yeah, it's an urban place, but it has caused a lot of disruption. But as far as this disruption goes, keep it going and see what happens.
Yeah.
So tell me if that's going to work.
Yeah, we're going to end up like Uniontown or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. This type of crap doesn't work.
No, it doesn't, and it's arrogant too. It's just personally, I think one of the biggest arrogant moves that a local government can do is charge you to park your car. And I'm not talking about a garage. That's different. I'm talking about on a public street to charge you to park your car. That to me is the very core of arrogance of city Democrats.
I just lived through that and was well familiar with it, and I thought it was just another tax. It was just another tax.
But it's infringing on the public land. The government doesn't own that. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I think somebody could win the mayorship of Pittsburgh coming in and saying, look, on day one, I'm putting out executive orders. Every one of these bike lanes is getting torn down. All these rent-a-bikes are getting sent to Washington, D.C., where they could use them, and there's no more parking fee on the street. Now, a garage, that's different. Any city garage, any garage in the city of Pittsburgh that is owned by the city is for sale right now. We're getting out of this business. It's ridiculous. It thwarts business. I don't go downtown because of that. That's the main reason I don't go downtown. You go to some of the neighborhoods around, and most cities are like this. You go to most of the neighborhoods, and it's not that bad. It's reasonable. It's a half hour for a quarter or whatever. You go to downtown Pittsburgh, it's 3 minutes for $1 or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's unbelievably expensive, and it kills business. It does. They want everybody to ride a bus, Sal. They want you to be under Agenda 2030, Agenda 21. They want it to be all unionized government transportation. And if they could do it, they already did it, just about with the airlines, with the TSA. A good communist labor union strike could shut down the air in the United States.
Sure.
It's sickening.
But let's get back to the story here of, what exactly what does this do? It makes a city less attractive. It doesn't want to bring money here. People want to start businesses, and if they happen to be a Trump or even a conservative, let's say if they're just simply conservative, and maybe that's their best choice is Trump. What kind of message does that send out to the rest, to someone who's maybe looking at Pittsburgh?
Oh, I can't believe Amazon even thought about it.
Yeah, they won't want to come here. And then, there's a lot of us out there who, maybe we're the minority in the city. When I lived there, was definitely a minority. And that stuff it drove me faster to get out of there. It drove me faster.
Well, my next place is not going to be in the city limits. I promise you that. I still have a lot of young family here, so I'm going to stay in the area. But things are moving. The last kid is getting ready to go to college next year, and once that happens, I'm thinking about downsizing. I got a pretty big house. I'm thinking about downsizing. It's going to be outside the city limits. Believe that. I already.
Just wait until you sell that, because then you're going to wait until you get the transfer tax on that, Hutch.
I think it's going up.
It's going up to 5%. It's going up to 5%, I believe.
It probably will.
So
I'll charge 5% more. Taxes don't work with gangsters, man. I buy my gas in West Virginia. Believe me. All right, so this is going to be interesting, especially to my veterans that are listening, and especially to Iraq and current combat veterans that I know listen to the show out your way too, Sal. There's a couple guys out there. I hope you're still out there listening. Sean, I'm kind of going to guess that you are, but this is and let me say up front, because I'm not claiming to be anything I'm not. I was in combat, but I was not in direct combat. I'm a logistician. I'm a very senior level. I was a senior level logistician. And the closest I came to combat was mortar rounds and rockets hitting my base. And I, ran into a couple captured insurgents and things like that, but not, I never fired my gun in anger. Let's put it that way. But you have a guy right now who happens to be, he has, if he became president, I don't know what they would call his wife, because it's a dude, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, comes off as this Afghanistan combat veteran, but does not appear to have engaged in any combat during his meager 6-month deployment in Afghanistan, despite months of ignoring multiple media requests about the issue, including from Breitbart News. That's a big thing to people like us, Sal, and not the fact that you didn't serve in combat directly, but playing it off like you did is a capital offense in our circles. And that's what this dude did.
Well, hopefully the media reports on that, right?
Oh, they're not going to.
No. They're not going to.
He's the gay John Wayne, that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So people, you got to do your own research, take a look at this guy, see what he's all about,
right.
See what he really truly represents. And when you get down to it, make your own decision based upon it. And this is the kind of thing I understand. I'm not a veteran myself.
And that's fine.
I didn't serve. I didn't not necessarily regret in life, but I did have an opportunity to become a reservist. I didn't do it. Took a slightly different path in life, but I take that as a really, if you serve, fantastic, you're a veteran. But if you're serving combat, I think that just puts you in a whole different level. And do I have relatives that were in the Vietnam era? Were they in the Army at that point? Yes. Did they fight in Vietnam? No. And those people really, one in particular that I know, he downplays his role in the Army. He says he really didn't do much,
right?
Because he knows, and I know that thousands of other people lost their life, and that's what makes it so sacred
Or even worse, even worse than losing your life. I mean, some of the injuries are just catastrophic. I mean, you go to some of these VA hospitals, man. Wow.
Yeah, let's just put it the sacrifices that some people made
not just that, but you start getting a little older, and things in your body start going south, and you can, like, for instance, myself, I have arthritis sometimes in my hands and my feet and my legs, and I'm sitting there, how did this happen? And I know how this happened. Changing tank engines at frickin' 20 degrees, in the middle of the night. Your body can only do that for so long. So there are other sacrifices other than injuries, but I just think the whole stolen valor type of thing is sickening.
When you're a combat veteran, that it really is to me, it's a sacred level, and that's what it's not to be faked. It's not to be sort of contrived and twisted how some people want to, I was served in blah.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah. And I, when you explain your role yourself, hey,
every time I talk about this, I am so reverent to the people that I supported that I know were out there in firefights and whatnot in IED situations. I have to say that just out of respect for them. And when I see somebody like this moron, anyway, moving on, Maricopa County, you remember Sheriff Joe Arpaio, right?
Toughest sheriff.
Yeah, he
Heck
is.
yeah.
And he's running again in 2020.
He's making a comeback. He is. I heard that. And what is he, 89, 88?
Yeah, he's in his 80s. I don't think it's 89, but he's still kicking. But the point of the story is that everybody remembers Arizona's Republican stalwart, Jeff Flake, a disgraced senator from Arizona, sent a tweet out, and the tweet appears to be Flake's announcement. It was a picture of a check for $100 for the Maricopa County Sheriff, Paul Penzone, who is up for re-election, the Democrat. This is Jeff Flake. This is one of the guys that retired last time around. And now we've got Representative Bill Flores has become the 5th Texas Republican to announce retirement from Congress. So between Texas has got a lot of work cut out for you guys do in Texas. And I pray to God that the MAGA train hits Texas and we get some candidates that can come out and talk the MAGA message and get elected. And maybe we can save this Republican Party, Sal.
Yeah, again, the downside of the retirements, they're retiring, but hopefully there's some new conservative blood that gets in there and reinvigorates the party. It's possible.
I think so.
Looking for an alternative place to find news and opinion? How about conversing with fellow patriots? Join us Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for Cold War Radio. You will find it at www.Spreaker.com or in the Spreaker app. Search for Cold War Radio and you will find it. Since I've been listening, I have met some terrific patriots and learned quite a lot about current events that the mainstream media will never tell you. Please come and join us. Be inspired. You will feel right at home in our Spreaker chat room.
One America News Network, your leading source for the latest breaking national and international news. With nearly 4 times as many headlines as the other networks. Straight news, no speculation, no opinion, just the facts. Complete coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One America News Network, your source for credible news.
Well, let me say this, and this, I don't care about being popular or whatever. The first thing you got to do is you got to study and understand who you're up against. And you must realize that this is not a religion that you're fighting against. You're fighting against a theopolitical belief system and construct. You're fighting against something that's been doing this thing since 622 AD, 7th century, 1,388 years. You want to dig up Charles Martel and ask him why he was fighting the Muslim army at the Battle of Tours in 732. You want to ask the Venetian fleet at Lepanto while they were fighting a Muslim fleet in 1571. You want to ask the Christian, the Germanic and Austrian knights why they were fighting at the gates of Vienna in 1683. You want to ask people what happened in Constantinople and why today is called Istanbul, because they lost that fight in 1453. You need to get into the Quran. You need to understand their precepts. You need to read the Surah. You need to read the Hadiths. And then you can really understand this is not a perversion. They are doing exactly what this book says. But, all right. And I want to close by saying this. And I think we have said this all through this morning so far. Until you get principled leadership in the United States of America that is willing to say that, we will continue to chase our tail, because we will never clearly define who this enemy is and then understand their goals and objectives, which is on any jihadist website, and then come up with the right and proper goals and objectives to not only secure our republic, but to secure Western civilization. Thank you.
And welcome back to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. My co-host from out west, Sal, is in the room. We're getting ready to talk about the Democrat people that are in the running for the primary for the 2020 election. And do you know that CNN is hosting a 7-hour-long town hall right now with all of the candidates that are allowed to be there. I don't know how many 40-minute segments you could chop up and turn it into 7 hours, but what a ratings disaster that has to be.
Is that the climate change town hall?
Yeah. All about climate change. That's it. It's going to be 7 hours of lies.
7 hours of hypocrites for 7 hours.
You know, something more than 50%. More than 50% of young Republicans believe it. You know, that's the scary part. It goes right along. This public education system, the government education is basically, but it's government/unions. It's like oligarchy. But it's effective. I mean, I've told the story several times about homosexual marriage, and the young Republicans are all in, man. And they're all in on climate change, too. And in another generation, they're going to be all in and taking our guns. You know, you can only listen to this stuff so long. Goebbels was right. You tell a lie over and over and over again, it becomes a truth to weak-minded people.
Well, I'm not watching that, are you? I'm not going to.
No. How can anybody watch that?
I'm not going to spend 10 seconds on that at all, but you know, I wanted to talk about something related to that. Can I jump into that now?
You can. You can.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, you know, since we're talking about climate change, there's a good bit of information out there of when is climate change just weather?
Every day. Every day.
Exactly. And let me just talk about an article written in Forbes by a person, by Roger Pielke, who researches and writes about science, technology, and politics. And he wants to call out what the coverage on Hurricane Dorian, you know, what is mixed up and why it's done on purpose. And he goes to, you know, discuss. Let me just get into a little bit of the article here. Recovery has begun in the Bahamas after a massive devastation from Hurricane Dorian, a Category 5 monster of historic intensity. The U.S. and Southeast Coast and Canadian Maritimes are keeping a watchful eye on Dorian, still a powerful storm. However, even though Dorian is still churning in the Atlantic, questions are understandably being raised about the possible effects of human-caused climate change and hurricane behavior. Well, let's just talk about that for a little bit. There have been hurricanes since the beginning of time here on Earth. This isn't anything new. And I recently heard some research. There are researchers who study this type of thing. And it's amazing because they will go and take a look at the sediment, layers of sediment that is formed here on the Earth. And there is very strong evidence that for 400 to 500 years, there may have been more powerful hurricanes than we've ever seen before. Now, what's the difference between now and then? The biggest thing, we're in a very technologically savvy society where we have 24/7 news coverage. We also have satellites, we have radar, we have things that can detect all this. But let's go back and talk about this a little bit more. Such questions are not just scientific, but have a strong overlay for politics. Ha ha.
Imagine that.
The claims of the effects or lack thereof of accumulating greenhouse gases in the atmosphere on hurricanes are often proxy call for more or less aggressive policy on climate change. So,
7 hours, man. Go to CNN.
Yeah, 7 hours. And I don't know if you saw the recent musings of AOC and her cockamamie stuff that she came out with.
The glaciers, the stuff melting out of the glaciers. The super bugs that can survive being frozen for 1,000 years, and now they're all of a sudden going to come out. She watched Jurassic Park or something. That's all.
Right. So, unfortunately, much of what you read in the media often ignores these assessments in favor of more sensationalized and less accurate coverage. Now, the author goes on to say that, yes, there has been some human-caused climate change accumulating in greenhouse gases and is real and can impose significant risks. Actions needed to try to mitigate this. And there's argument in that there. But none of this
I don't believe any of it.
Well, I know. And again, we can debate that on. But none of this justifies departing from scientific integrity. And that's where some of these people...
And when you look at it, all you have to do is get out the age-old adage, follow the fazools. You know what I mean?
Right.
Follow the money.
But, yeah.
It's an extortion. It's an extortion scheme is what it is.
Right. But
you're never going to get carbon out of us. We are carbon. So any attempt to eliminate carbon is ridiculous at its core. It is an extortion scheme because every time you hear somebody talk about climate change, in the very next breath, they talk about $96 trillion to fix it. It's madness. It really is. Final word.
It is madness. Final word. We do have climate change here. It does happen. Man has created, a little bit more pollution on Earth. But there is a big, just because we're polluting on Earth doesn't mean that we're creating hurricanes. It is ridiculous. A lot of these news organizations are sensationalizing this.
And I'll give you an example you can relate to too. And I'm not sure exactly when you arrived in Pittsburgh, but I do know that when I was younger, and I know you're younger than I am, but I was able to witness the full velocity of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania steel industry. And I saw the sky as it was red at night when the steel mills were operating on the south side and up and down all of our rivers, all the way out to other counties going north and south. And when that all died in 1980, that's when most of us left. Because there was no more work. When it died, there was no more work. It killed the economy. And in some areas as far away as Johnstown and Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. It destroyed towns when the steel industry went away. After all of that, after building the world's infrastructure, they held a Bassmasters tournament on the Three Rivers of Pittsburgh. Think about that. Anybody who thinks that us little ants in the human race are more powerful than this earth are arrogant, in my opinion. Totally arrogant. I would ask you to go look at some of the things NASA has brought us photographically. Look at some of the pictures of the earth from space. We are inconsequential. And when I say that, I would say if you look at the effects of the atomic bombs that were dropped in World War II, and then you look at the effects of the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Now, Mount St. Helens, that's something that could change stuff. But not us. Not us. That hurricane right now has more energy in it than any of the nuclear weapons available to anybody. Every 10 minutes, it puts out more energy. Let's go to Regina in Richmond, Virginia. Hello, Regina.
Hello.
What's on your mind tonight?
Y'all on an interesting topic that I figured something out years ago that apparently nobody else has figured it out.
Uh-oh, breaking news. What do you got?
For some strange reason, everybody keeps skipping over the Bible.
Okay, that's true.
Because
Elaborate.
in the beginning, God created the planet Earth, right?
Right.
So during that time, He created, guess what? The weather.
And oil. But go ahead.
Yeah, he did that too. But He also created the weather, night and day, and stuff like that. The stars and stuff like that.
Sure.
He did all that and stuff like that, and He put. A lot of people don't realize that God put Earth on God's schedule.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
And for some strange reason, nobody has figured that part out yet.
Oh, I have. I live by that. I live by, Regina, I say this all the time to people, especially when I'm in debates with leftists. I said, not only did God give us all of these magical resources, He put them under our feet. They're here. Right here where I live is where all these wonderful natural resources are. And sometimes I think it's almost a religious thing on the left that they don't want us to have them. And I've said from the beginning, that money's under the ground, just like the weather. When you look at the weather, you look at if man would have never intervened on the West Coast, think of the weather. What does the weather do? The weather is created to sustain life on this planet. I mean, what do you get in the springtime? In the springtime, you get winds and you get lightning.
What about maple syrup? What about maple syrup from trees?
That too. Out east, especially in the Northeast. But think about the wind and the lightning and the rain.
Mm-hmm.
You have lightning strikes that are coming down to the earth and they're igniting brush fires. And the brush fires are being blown by the wind that God designed to happen in April or whenever in your state.
Yep.
And it burns off all of the undergrowth and allows the forest to flourish. But then in California, you go in there and you put them all out. And so now, there's so much ladder fuel that's laying around that when it catches, it doesn't just go up the way it used to the first branch. It goes past the first branch and the whole forest catches on fire. But just things like that. I agree with you 100%, Regina. God created the weather for a reason.
Oh, yeah. And the other part that I figured out that's part that I figured out that apparently nobody has figured out. God didn't come to us as mankind and say, I'm going to put the earth on the schedule that you want.
Right.
He didn't ask us.
Yeah.
About the schedule that the planet Earth is on.
You look at winter. What does winter do for us? Winter in modern society, where we live, comes every year and kills every single bug that there is in this country.
But wait a minute, it does something else. Probably creates a lot of babies because people stay inside, right?
See, I knew you were going to do something like that.
That.
All right, Regina, I got to go, man. I got like 35 minutes and about 2 hours worth of material I got to try to get through here.
Okay.
Thank you very much for calling, and a great point. A great point. Well taken.
Okay.
She's all the way right, man. You know that, Sal. I mean, this is something that is bigger than us, and this is the arrogance factor that I'm talking about. Again, this is another arrogant moment for especially short-sighted Americans that think that everything is on our own clock.
No, it's not only on our own clock. These people believe that humans can fix everything.
Exactly.
And
we're responsible for everything.
And sometimes we can't fix everything, and there are some things that are done, and sometimes bad things happen, and they're unexplainable. But often, other times, there are miracles that happen, and they're downright unexplainable too, and that's just part of the human condition. But let's go back to your grass thing real quick, or the lightning thing. Lightning also makes the grass green, Hutch. There's a really another reason for it, because the nitrate from the lightning, it's used to create more chlorophyll. And during a thunderstorm, every time there's a bolt of lightning, it breaks the strong nitrogen bonds, and that attaches to oxygen, forming nitrogen dioxide, and it starts chemical processes, and it gets our grass greener. So there's a lot of reasons for lightning. It's not just what the one you explained. Yeah, that's one of them. But there are. Our Earth was created, and our Creator gave us a lot of different things. And while something might look downright scary, lightning is, you don't want it to strike you or anything around, but it makes our grass greener.
There you go.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
All right. Now, we talked a little bit about Buttigieg and some of the other Democrat politicians, candidates, if you will, to get destroyed by Trump, because that's all it's going to be. Anybody who believes a poll that Biden is going to beat Trump is... man, you're in another universe. That's all I can tell you. But I want you to listen to all of the Democrat candidates and what they're about.
The month of August ended as it began, with a shooting rampage and significant death toll.
20 different crime scenes in Texas, a routine traffic stop turning into a miles-long rampage, families huddling together against the gunfire.
Killing 7 people and wounding
over 7 people,
including 17-month-old Anderson Davis, now recovering after shrapnel was removed from her chest.
Pressure to act is mounting on President Trump in Congress, with growing bipartisan support for new gun legislation.
We're averaging about 300 mass shootings a year. No other country comes close. So yes, this is f***ed up. And if we don't call it out for what it is, if we're not able to speak clearly, if we're not able to act decisively, then we will continue to have this kind of bloodshed in America.
Today, if it's an average day in America, 7 children and teenagers will die from gun violence. Won't make headlines, most of them.
The Republican Congress that is controlled by the NRA is the problem. Are they doing what 80% of the American people want? No, they're doing what the NRA wants.
And we're talking about loosening access to have guns, be able to take them into places of worship, store them in school. I mean, it's just absolutely irrational. It's totally irrational. And it's all about special interest. And it has to stop. It has to stop.
If you want to go hunting, that's fine. But we need reasonable gun safety laws in this country, starting with universal background checks and a renewal of the assault weapon ban.
How do you address the fears that the government's going to take away those assault rifles?
So I want to be really clear that that's exactly what we're going to do. Americans who own AR-15s, AK-47s, will have to sell them to the government.
The assault weapon ban, magazines. You think about the fact that that guy in Dayton in less than a minute killed 9 people. Why does someone like that have an assault weapon with those kind of high-powered magazines?
High-powered magazines.
We don't have elimination of assault-type weapons, magazines that can hold multiple bullets in them. It's absolutely mindless. It is no violation of the Second Amendment. It is it's just a bow to the special interest of the gun manufacturers and the NRA.
We're going to win this battle, and we shouldn't have low ambitions when it comes to this. We can solve this problem and not take away a person's right to own a gun. My ambitious plan, the only people that should be afraid of it should be the corporate gun lobby, gun runners, and criminals.
We have to treat this like the public health emergency that it is.
In this country today, there are many thousands of people who are walking the streets as we speak, who are suicidal and homicidal.
Background checks, I will say that for the most part, sadly, if you look at the last 4 or 5, going back even 5 or 6 or 7 years, for the most part, as strong as you make your background checks, they would not have stopped any of it. So it's a big problem. It's a mental problem. It's a big problem.
The decision that this administration made to reduce funding and cancel programs for dealing with violent extremism is the wrong direction. Time to turn that around before we're dealing with another attack like this in the future.
Sometimes, Sal, I think that some of these attacks are set up, man. I really do. I just, it's amazing the way they spiked. Again, I will put it back to fatherlessness. But you hear these people talking about these background checks. And this current shooter in Odessa/Midland, Texas, failed a background check. Now, to me, and I've bought several guns in my life, you have to answer questions. And to fail a background check,
you have to answer those questions. Yes, you do.
And if you fail one, you had to have lied on the background check, which is a federal offense. So I'm looking at this case with this Odessa guy and seeing that he failed a background check but was not arrested. And there is no information, at least publicly, available to a person like me as to why he failed that background check. So the background check is already there. He failed it, and he still shot those people up. Stop the lies. Don't listen to these Democrats. They don't want to disarm criminals. Bernie Sanders told you. It's not the criminals, or Beto, one of those guys said, it's the gun lobby and the manufacturers. No, it's not. It's the federal, state, and local governments that have allowed massive payouts to women that raise children with no men in the house. That's why. That is the root cause of almost all of our social problems in the United States of America, Sal. That right there. You change that, you change almost everything, including life in the ghetto. Your comments?
Yeah, I don't. There's really incentive to not have a nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
There is
a financial incentive.
And yeah, absolutely. And
a 100% Democrat sponsored financial.
I don't know if necessarily people, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but it's set up.
Send me an email. I'll say it.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think the right way to get my thoughts together.
I know.
On my feet, because I'm literally on my feet. I'm experimenting today a little bit, but it's almost as if the system is set up for the success for that to happen and a failure to have a nuclear family.
Yeah.
It's as if it's there and it's ready to go. And, let's face it, there is going to be divorce. There's going to be things that happen. And,
but you don't have to divorce your kids. You don't have to divorce your kids, man.
No, but there's a lot of people that just, I don't know. they don't want to put the work in. They just want to walk away.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I did it, though. I know. I didn't divorce my kids, man. My kids I've been divorced for, a long time. You know what I mean? And I still interact with my children almost every day. You know, thank God that my ex-wife didn't leave. I mean, I know that there's a lot of problems with that. I understand that.
But it's set up for people to fail and for them to be okay.
Right.
And for there to be it's okay to have a safety net, but this goes a little bit beyond a safety net.
Exactly.
And I think it actually promotes some of this behavior.
I think it causes it. I swear to God, I do. I mean, I can't imagine.
I think some of the root cause, if we want to talk about like root causes, it's actual. Then that goes to like personal responsibility. There's some people that probably
and where does that come from? Primarily,
okay, that starts at home with values.
With dad kicking your ass, with him kicking your ass. That's where it starts.
It does, and it starts with perhaps having some religion in your home as well.
That too. That we could do a whole show on that, and we probably will. All right, let's move on. We only have so much time, Sal. This is a critical couple hours in the evening. Omar Ilhan husband wants a divorce after the affair allegations of her sleeping with her, what was it, a consultant or some political associate of her. This woman's a train wreck, man. This is like bringing Somali culture into the United States. I mean, Minnesota, shame on you, man. No doubt. This lady, I don't see how she's still in Congress, man. I really don't.
Well, she got elected by the people in
the immigrants
district where she resides at, and now she's in, and now the true colors are coming out of her and what she's really about, and hopefully people wake up. People wake up, and I think actually the people in her district aren't really getting a fair shake.
No, actually, I've seen tapes of them being exploited, just like the Irish and Italian communities of immigrants were 100 years ago by their own people. I mean, she has a little mafia thing going on with the Somali villagers that are in Minnesota 5. It's I heard a tape where they were, if you say anything against Ilhan Omar, you are going to be rejected from this community. And you can imagine the actual results of a Somalian saying that. If you look at what goes on in Mogadishu and other places in Africa and Somalia. I hope that gets rectified rather quickly.
Is this going to be another thing that gets swept under the carpet? And
of course.
It's like, she's just a member of Congress and she's going through some problems. And
I want to know how Keith Ellison's involved. I want to know how he's involved. He's got to have something to do with this. He was probably taking her out too. Probably beat her a couple times. That's the way he rolls. Now, you looked at Chicago. We were talking about gun control. The Windy City has improved in reducing the number of shootings. And really, when you listen to the clips of the Democrats talking about gun control and talking about the violence, it's all occurring in their districts. It doesn't happen in Republican districts. It only happens when Democrats are in charge. But they've improved reducing the number of shootings. But this weekend was rather bloody. You won't hear it on the news, but 43 people were shot over the Labor Day weekend, 8 of them fatally. If you're from Pittsburgh, that means that they died. And no stories, no nothing. I mean, this is common. They take these people and they add the killings into the statistics when they try to take my guns. But they don't tell you that 80% of those killings are with illegal firearms by people that aren't allowed to have them in the city and cities, not just one city. Pittsburgh's one of them, Baltimore. Pittsburgh doesn't have enough people in it to hit the radar anymore. But in Baltimore and Detroit and Chicago and New York, and they're done with illegal weapons, and they're not going to stop no matter how many citizens' guns you take.
Well, the other thing, too, in a big city like Chicago are the turf wars from the gangs, and that's usually because of the drugs. And then it goes back to why are they involved in drugs? It's because usually they're from a family who isn't intact. So we go back to the root cause again. And, there's a lot of, even though it's maybe not big money to a lot of people, but there are turf wars over money and drugs.
Sure.
And when they start, if they would drill down and start addressing those root causes, because that's a major hub for trafficking, they're not going to see a change because there's always going to be these turf wars.
And let me say something else, too, that's not in the show notes. You cannot blame China or Mexico for our fentanyl problem, for our drug problem. You can't do it. It's our problem.
Yeah, because
it's not their problem. They're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, there's customers.
We're the stupid ones.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, there's customers here that want to indulge.
That's right.
And
these lawsuits against the pharmaceutical companies are ridiculous, man. They're embarrassing. It's our problem. We have to fix our house, and then these people won't buy them. Every single one of these products was available 100 years ago, but we didn't have the problem. They didn't just invent this stuff. Maybe fentanyl is a new hybrid of opioid. I don't know. But there was heroin here forever. And opium dens in San Francisco. Imagine that. The Chinese brought that. But it's our problem. It's not somebody else's problem. If we don't buy it, it ends. It ends overnight. So don't take a cop out and follow the GOP train and try to blame somebody else for what we're doing to ourselves. And
right, and also the people that are involved in the trade, they're ruining a lot of lives.
Definitely,
a lot of lives are being ruined. A lot of families are being ruined. A lot of people are getting killed unnecessarily. A lot of people are getting injured. I don't want to quite call it a war zone, but it's probably darn near close from what we've heard in the past.
Well, yeah, in some places, there's no doubt. All right, let's shift to Trey Gowdy responding to former FBI Director James Comey's demands for an apology. This is a little bit of a love fest between Justin Chaffetz and Trey Gowdy.
Joining me now for reaction to all this is former Congressman and Fox News contributor Trey Gowdy. I served with Mr. Gowdy in the Congress. It was a pleasure to do so. And Trey, I appreciate you coming here. I love the glasses, so it's a good look. It's a good look.
I love you too, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. You've read through the report. You've dealt personally with Mr. Director Comey over a series of years. What's your takeaway from what Mr. Horowitz concluded?
Well, he's a two-time offender. Remember, Horowitz also dinged him for his handling of the Clinton email investigation, so now he gets dinged in the other major case he handled in 2016. I never said Comey would or should go to jail. I'm certainly not going to apologize to anyone who violated FBI and Department of Justice policy, who violated an employment agreement, who shared sensitive information about an ongoing investigation, who sent classified information to an unauthorized person, and then had amnesia when the FBI came to his home to try to retrieve government property. I'm not going to apologize to that person. I will give him a piece of unsolicited advice. Jason, you referenced Comey's obsession with his higher ethical standing than the rest of us have. So here's my advice. You should aspire to more in life than simply skating by without having been indicted. If that is your goal in life, to just not meet every essential element of a criminal offense, and you think you should be congratulated and apologized to for simply because you were not indicted, you better give back some of those higher loyalty speaking fees.
Yeah, it's really interesting, this little nuanced part about when the FBI did go to his home. As an FBI director, he does get a SCIF, a secured compartmental information facility. But he evidently took this information, didn't keep it in the SCIF. He kept it in his own personal safe, supposedly. That's a real problem, right? I mean, you just imagine if every federal employee did that.
Well, it's not a problem if you consider it to be your own personal diary. So, I mean, it depends on what the record said. Did the record say, "Dear diary, Congress was mean to me today, but I did get to talk to the president"? That might be a personal diary. That's not what this was. He's talking to his boss. He's talking to the head of the executive branch, and then he memorializes it. It's a public record. No matter what he calls it, that record belongs to the United States. So he can call it a diary, like birthday cards and other correspondence, but nobody other than Jim Comey considers that to be personal.
But do you think there was the accountability and the consequence? You know, the criticism here is that if somebody else had done this, they would be in handcuffs. They would be going to jail. But is Lady Justice being fair and right here? And is he being held accountable?
Well, Jason, I'm very sensitive to that. When our fellow citizens think we have a two-track justice system, either for the famous or the not famous, or the rich or the poor, then we're in trouble as a republic. I would tell my fellow citizens this: we have to have other ways of meting out accountability other than simply indictments. You know, Hillary Clinton was never indicted. She was never charged, therefore never guilty of a crime, but yet the American jury in 2016 meted out a consequence. Jim Comey, whether he likes it or not, all of his past in the Southern District of New York, all of his past at Main Justice, all of his time as an FBI director, some of which I agreed with, all of that will be forgotten. God and history will be all of our judges, but they will judge Jim Comey based on the fact that he got dinged on both of the major investigations he was handling in 2016 by the Inspector General. That will be the accountability. That's what history will remember about Jim Comey.
Last quick question for you. Mr. Comey actually expects you to apologize. Are you ready to apologize tonight?
Well, what temperature is it in hell right now? Is it snowing? When it snows in hell, you let me know. Why would I apologize to somebody that's been dinged on both of the major investigations by a guy like Michael Horowitz, who is hardly a Republican? He was picked by Obama and confirmed by the Senate, I think, without a dissenting vote. Yeah. That's who said you screwed up Jim Comey. It wasn't a couple of Republican congressmen.
Yeah, no, a couple of congressmen did think he screwed up.
No.
I think you and I were both on that bandwagon. But you're right, Horowitz, impeccable credentials, appointed by Obama, confirmed unanimously by the United States Senate. Even Comey praised the Inspector General. He's now been on the receiving end of 2 Inspector General reports and more to come.
2. He's a 2-time career offender.
Yeah.
3 strikes and you're out.
That's right. Well, he's out now, thank goodness. Mr. Gowdy, thank you again for joining us.
Great. All right, so I've had some words about Trey Gowdy in the past, and I stand by every one of them. But he makes sense every now and then, and maybe he's making some money now.
we could comment about Comey all the time here. What a disgrace! Really, what a total and complete disgrace.
Can you imagine being a dedicated, just a regular special agent of the FBI, just one of the troops, or even one of the sergeants or captains, and watching this happen? It's got to be heartbreaking. It really does.
It's got to be heartbreaking. Let's say if he didn't necessarily commit a violation to break the law.
You got to follow the rules, man. You have to follow the rules.
You got to follow the rules. They're there for a reason. And I think that comes down to breaking trust of people.
It does.
How can you trust someone else, especially someone who's supposed to be a leader? Because a leader is supposed to what are they supposed to lead by? Generally by example.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take a little bit of a light side here. I am the Godfather. You've heard of that, right?
Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather watching.
So I'm watching, and Ken, I just wanted to play that for you because you didn't get to hear that at the beginning of the show. And I want to also Welcome Norway is in the chat room. Hello, Norway. Thanks for stopping by. Always love your input. But as I said before, you gotta follow the rules. You know, so I want to play a clip of a gentleman named, he's deceased. Everybody's deceased in this clip, actually. But his name is Agnello Della Croce. They called him Neil. But he was the underboss of the Gambino crime family in New York. And you've all heard of John Gotti, and he was sent on a mission, on a hit, to hit a guy named McBratney, an Irish guy that had murdered Carlo Gambino's nephew. And they sent this guy from Paul Castellano's crew on the hit, and he blew the hit completely. Sent Gotti to prison over it, the way he blew it. And Gotti decided to not follow the rules. And you got to follow the rules, man. You have to. This guy that they sent with them, with Angie Ruggiero, Quack Quack, and Johnny Boy, blew the whole thing. And this is Neil Della Croce, Agnello Della Croce, coming to talk to John Gotti.
They're negotiating all night. Let's take a walk.
Negotiating what?
Your fucking life.
You're thinking out a fucking cokehead.
Be quiet! Sit down. I said sit down. You know, I've clipped a lot of guys in my life. Close friends. Guys I didn't know. I didn't always agree that the guy should be clipped. But I never questioned the orders. And I never went off half-cocked and clipped somebody I wasn't supposed to. Now you shut up! You just listen. You know, Big Paul went to Don Carlo for permission to have you whacked. It came this close. I told Don Carlo, you were like a son to me. That touched the old man. He told Paul to give you a pass. But if Don Carlo had said, you gotta go, I would have come here today with these 2 zips. And you would go. John, you cannot whack a made man on somebody else's crew. There are rules. You break the rules, and this whole goddamn thing of ours cracks and crumbles. You never break the rules. Capiche? Capiche. All right. Let's drink to that. Wipe your face, John. You're sweating up a $100 shirt. Don Carlo says you'll do some time, but he's gonna take care of your family. Here. La Familia. And the rules that hold us together.
La Familia. And the rules that hold us together.
You can't break the rules, man. You gotta live within the parameters of the rules. And I read an article today that talked about the 2020 election and how we've all been living in an upside down world since Obama was elected. And we've all been yearning, some more than others, for justice to be dealt. And I'm telling you, we're getting close. We're getting close to either justice being served or worse. I'll just leave it at that. But a couple comments in the chat room. 2 zips. That's a Sicilian that is imported into the American mafia, Italian-American mafia, that's directly from Sicily. That's what a zip is. They do a lot of the work on high-level executions and whatnot. But anyway, that's that. I wasn't going to play that, but I watched that movie last night, and I was like, man, that's a killer scene right there. You gotta listen to the rules, Sal. You can't deviate from them or it's going to bite you.
Yeah, the rules are the rules, and sometimes it bites harder than other times. So we'll see. We'll see if these people here aren't just part of the status quo.
16 Republicans retiring right now.
Well, I'm talking about maybe a little bit higher than that, Hutch. We'll see if someone really, really wants to enforce the law of the land, the rule of the land. Let's just see if he is who he says he was when he came in here. And we'll see if laws are really going to be enforced here.
Yes, we will.
I'm interested to see how this turns out because
I pray to God.
I have my doubts.
I do too.
I have my doubts that it will happen.
You're seeing the people start disappearing that knew Epstein. They're starting to disappear one by one. I mean, the evidence is being destroyed, and this is how it works. I mean, and it's no, I'm joking around with the Godfather thing, but there's so many parallels between that life and this federal government. It's unbelievable. It really is. And on a final note, we're almost out of time here, but something that you wouldn't believe happened actually did. When you think of Maine, you think of a purely liberal environment, but they rolled all their gun laws back and are now deemed the safest state. Maine has officially topped the safest states rankings after they rolled back their strict gun laws 4 years ago. They passed a constitutional carry law in 2015, which ultimately allows citizens to conceal carry their firearm without having to get a concealed carry license. Outstanding. I mean, of course, the Democrats suggested the law would lead to violent criminals with recent arrests and convictions legally carrying handguns. But the joke's on them. Now that more people carry, quality of life has been better and safer. And that's the way it is. And that's the way it's always been. We just weren't able to believe it, I guess, or, with the media on the side of the Democrat Party. I mean, it's a wonder we get anything done. Sal, great show tonight. How can people get in touch with you? And final comments, sir.
Final comments. I appreciate everyone coming out to listen to us tonight. Appreciate the talk. Appreciate the callers. And let's keep this talk going. You can reach me on Twitter at Sal at CWR. That's SALATCWR.
All right, my man. Thanks for coming out again. A wonderful show. Let me see if I have enough time to get this, what I want to reference up. There it is. We got a couple guests coming up. We got one on Friday, rather, and it is going to be the author of a book about the Kavanaugh hearing and how that was totally disgusting. I don't have his name. I'm trying, man. I'm really trying. His last name's Loveless. I know that. Wow, I'm failing here. But we also have Jeanine Pirro, Judge Jeanine, next Monday, which that's going to be interesting. And Mona's going to kill me if I don't get this proper attribution together, and I'm not being able to find it. Uh-oh, here we go. Is this it? Search and Destroy. inside the campaign against Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, this guy is an award-winning or a trend-setting author. Ryan Lovelace is his name. He'll be here on Friday with Jack and I. And again, Judge Janine Pirro on Monday with Ward and I. So make sure you're here for that. If you can become a patron, please do that. Go to steelcityresistance.com. We need all the help that we can get in that area. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I hope everybody had a great Labor Union Day weekend. I know I did. Don't forget, you can leave a voicemail, 412-567-1460, if you are enjoying the program via podcast. And again, please become a Cold War Radio patron. We need the help for sure. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. Thanks for letting us into your life for a couple hours, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great Thursday, and God bless. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to rsbnmusic.bandcamp.com and support Jacob Seals, one of my favorite artists. Also go to madisonrising.com and freemusicarchive.org. One more and we're gone.